So Sony just announced the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima at their latest state of play, Ghost of Yōtei, or Yōtei, one of the two. I don't know how to pronounce it. When I searched it up, I couldn't find anything on it, so I won't know until I hear someone else say it out loud.
So it turns out that there was a result the whole time?
Yōtei.
Hey, I mean, at least I got it right, hey.
And I think it's safe to say that this game is not what any of us expected it to be. I don't think any of the speculation around a sequel to Ghost of Tsushima ever really went in the territory outside of what will they do next with Jin Sakai. And it turns out they're not doing anything next with Jin Sakai. We're moving on to a new time period with a new character in a new region, and that's kind of wild that none of us really thought about that. I'm sure there's someone in the comments that said, well, I thought about it, but the general conversation wasn't really in that direction. A lot of Sony first-party exclusives, Horizon, Uncharted, The Last of Us, God of War, Spider-Man, they're all direct sequels. They haven't really done a game like this, at least not in a while. And so it's interesting to see this approach from Sucker Punch when it comes to a sequel to Ghost. A new character, a new location, a new story, and 300 years after the setting of Ghost of Tsushima. I've seen a lot of people online talk about the fact that this is a little bit disappointing, that they really wanted another game with Jin, that they liked his character, that there could have been more stories to tell and somewhere else to take it. And to an extent, I agree. When the reveal trailer happened, I was incredibly confused and then sort of bewildered. And I will admit, I felt a little bit disappointed seeing that they were just going for a restart and doing something brand new. But I think that misses the point of the potential that this allows us for, both mechanically, but also, more importantly, narratively. A lot of people's investment in Ghost and the hopes for a sequel was in the character of Jin Sakai, in where would they take it next, what would they do. In doing this, it sort of flips that on its head, and it does leave you feeling a little disappointed. However, I don't think it is actually a bad thing. To talk about what they've told us so far, so we sort of have a grounds for where to go with this discussion, they talk about the fact that they loved making origin stories and that they wanted to make a new story about someone else wearing the ghost mask and uncovering a new legend, which led them to the new protagonist, which we now know is Atsu. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm really sorry. I'm winging it, to be honest, with a totally new region to explore. They say that our story is set in the lands surrounding Mount Yōtei. In 1603, this was an area outside the rule of Japan and is filled with sprawling grasslands, snowy tundras, and unexpected dangers, and it's a far cry from the organized samurai clans who lived in Tsushima. They also talk about how they're really focusing on massive sightlines that let you look largely across the whole environment, as well as new skies featuring stars and auroras, and totally new systems for wind, grass, and vegetation, improving on stuff that was in Ghost of Tsushima. There's not a lot to go off of, but that leaves a lot of potential for discussion. I think my biggest concern, I don't want to say disappointment because we don't really know, is that to me, something that I really wanted coming out of Ghost of Tsushima and going into a sequel was a little bit more of a focus on urban environments. I really wanted to see how the idea of the ghost would translate to more of like regular society in terms of the politics and the regular people and those more built up areas. I thought that would be really interesting to explore. It seems that this game, I mean, from what we've seen, is focused on a lot more of the same. The countryside, the beautiful vistas, the different biomes you can get, and less on those more sort of densely packed urban environments. And that's fine, that's cool, it's what Ghost did so well, but it does leave me feeling a little bit concerned that it will just be a lot more of the same rather than taking what Ghost did well and applying it to a slightly different environment and setting that could have made it a little bit more deep and added depth to the narrative layers that were there. The idea of being a ghost and fighting back against people that would harm, from the shadow, it's basically just Assassin's Creed. I just kind of wanted them to do that because I'm not playing Shadows, obviously. That's not gonna, But I thought it would be interesting to see Jin and the idea of the ghost confronted by ordinary people in, more of a city space rather than sort of this island at war. And so I think that's my biggest concern and worry for this game, is that it's not gonna do anything different enough. It's just gonna take what Ghost did and do, more of it, bigger fields and prettier scenery and different biomes. And that's cool, but I feel like it's not quite enough. You know what I mean? And like I said, we don't know enough about this game, so I can't say definitively, oh, it's not in there, so I'm disappointed. It's a concern. It's just a concern. But I think more importantly, on a narrative front, what a lot of people have said, obviously, is they're disappointed that Jin isn't coming back because he was such an interesting character. But I don't think that this game being set 300 years in the future means that Jin won't be important, or it means that it will be totally separate from Ghost of Tsushima narratively, and especially not thematically. The example that I thought about while I was streaming the event was Assassin's Creed. Surprisingly, I remember in 2009 when Assassin's Creed 2 was coming out, because I am ancient, that a lot of people were confused as to why we weren't getting another game with Altair, why we weren't following up on that story, because it left on somewhat of a cliffhanger. Altair kills his master, he reclaims the Apple of Eden. What happens next? Why are we just jumping to some other guy in Italy a couple hundred years later? What's the point of that? Why aren't we following up with what happened to Altair? I want to know where he went, how his character evolved and adapted. What did he do with the Assassin Brotherhood? What did he do with the Piece of Eden? All of these things I would love to have answered. Assassin's Creed 2 does answer them though. That's the thing that's so brilliant about it. I remember playing Assassin's Creed 2 in 2009. I remember loving the game and enjoying it and having a great time with Ezio's story. It became one of my favorite games. But one of the things that I really loved and really respected is how much it is a direct sequel to Assassin's Creed 1. Separate from the modern day aspect, the idea of Altair having such an effect on the events of the game and of Ezio's life is huge. All throughout the game you get different mentions of him, from Mario or from the armor that you can collect by the end of the game. But the most important part is in his codex pages. As you go through the game, you collect 30 of these pages which give you the location of the different vaults across the world, and by the end it gives you the location of the vault in Rome where you go to get the staff, and it's a whole part of the story. But if you take the time to sit and go into the database and read these codex pages, you can see these little journal entries from Altair, things that shaped Ezio's journey, whether it be the invention of the double hidden blade, new assassination techniques, or ruminations on what the Assassin's Brotherhood should represent. They're all felt across the game. And so through Ezio, you get to actually explore what did happen to Altair. And Ezio and the way the Brotherhood exists in Assassin's Creed 2 is of direct consequence from what Altair did in his reformation of the Creed in his time period. And so it's not a traditional way to do a sequel, but it was really cathartic, interesting, and I liked it a lot. And look, I'm not going to say we should all get excited because Ghost is going to do something really interesting in that regard. But maybe there's every possibility that this game is set 300 years in the future, or for a reason in terms of mechanics and the setting, and because they want to do something different, but also because it allows us to explore Jin and what he did and the idea of the ghost through a different lens. Maybe the ghost becomes a myth and a legend and someone takes up the mantle, but as they do, maybe they learn about the original ghost, maybe they learn about the lineage, maybe they understand what it means better and why Jin did it. It seems like our protagonist, Atsu, is going on some sort of revenge quest. You see them with their sort of list and they sort of wipe the blood on it. It looks like they're crossing a name off of the list. Perhaps they're taking down specific people for personal reason. And maybe that journey as the ghost allows them to understand what the ghost actually represents, and it allows us a deeper insight into why Jin did what he did, what the ghost became after him and in the years since. Maybe it allows us like a greater perspective on that. I think that could be interesting. And look, I'm not saying that's what they're going to do. Obviously, I have no clue where they're going to take this, and I just hope the game is interesting and fun and has a layer of depth to it. I think Ghost of Tsushima is a really good game. I enjoy playing it. I think it's solid, it's mechanically really strong, and it has a lot going for it. But it really works as a pretty competent foundation to build from, to do something a lot more from. A lot of the open world and the side content got a little tedious in Ghost towards the end. I think once you get past this very novelty way of exploring the world using the wind, you realize that it's kind of still the same open world formula that we've known for a million years. It's just now you swipe the touchpad and the wind points you in the right direction instead of a mini-map or a marker on your screen. And yeah, look, that is slightly more engaging. Changing the mini-map or the compass for the wind is a positive change, but the stuff you're doing at these locations is still not that interesting. I think Icky Island did a really good job in making the Ghost formula stronger and better. I really enjoyed it, and so hopefully this game can take that, expand on it, develop on it, and give us something with a lot more depth, with a narrative core that is still linked to the original Ghost of Tsushima. Because I think if this game is totally separate and has nothing to do with Ghost of Tsushima, I think that will be pretty dumb, to be honest. If this is just another person who also became a ghost, separately from Jin, and has nothing to do with him, and they're disconnected completely, that's just bad. That's just silly, you know what I mean? Maybe you don't know what I mean. I don't know. Who am I? I'm just a guy. But those were my first sort of initial thoughts after seeing this reveal. The positives and, you know, some negatives in there as well, I suppose. I can't say I'm deeply excited for Ghost of Yōtei, but I'm not interested. Although I don't get excited for games a lot these days, to be honest. I'm just not a big hype guy anymore. But I am definitely intrigued to see how they do this and why it's in the setting that it's in. And I hope it's for a reason. I'm trying to post a bit more to this channel, so if I ever have anything to talk about like this in the future, then I'll do that. It's nice to sometimes just switch on a mic, talk some shit, make a video, post it, you know? Like the good old days. And also, it gave me the excuse to be able to use this title and thumbnail that I did for Ghost of Tsushima that made loads of money for me, so it won't happen again. Lightning doesn't strike twice like that. I've done it before. You make a video again, and with the same title and the same thumbnail, and YouTube's just like, nah, not interested in it this time, which is how things go. I just thought it would be a funny bit, to be honest, because this is an ugly thumbnail. It's really bad. That's it from me. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and comment, and follow me on Twitter. I don't care. I'll see you later.